Hi there.
They were asking to come up.
Okay.
Dat hy vir jou sê wanneer hy reg is met die kamera. Dis net hy, sy naam is Elvin. Elvin, are you ready with the camera?
This is on. The mic, that mic is on, and the one here is on as well. Okay. All right. Well, welcome to your church. It really is a pleasure for me to be here. I'll be introducing myself as we go along. But let's bow our heads before we start. Lord, we are so grateful that we are received in this wonderful church of yours, Burnt Mills. What a privilege it is to be here with these folks. Thank you, Lord, that you also tell us that where 2 or 3 are gathered in your name, you are present yourself. So we thank you that you are present here. We pray that you will guide our lips, that you will open our hearts, that you will make our minds receptible, so that we may receive whatever it is that you want us to take note of. Thank you that we can ask you to be the one that will guide and direct us throughout this evening. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so I hope that we're going to have a lot of interesting moments during the evening. It's really a fun thing to do, cell phone evangelism. It really is a lot of fun. We use our telephones, we live on our telephones nowadays, and we make friends on our telephones, we communicate and connect via our phones, and worldwide that is how it is. So let's take a look at some of the things. To do in digital is to be aware of these online opportunities. What does the communication media tell us? Let's take a look at some of the statements that Mrs. White makes, and then let's take a look at what the communication media says by mouth of the Microsoft people. So in Evangelism, page 122, we have this interesting quote. It says, "Let every worker in the master's vineyard study, plan, and devise methods," and that means increase innovation, all right? To reach people where they are, we must do something out of the common course of things. We must arrest attention, and when it says we must arrest attention, it means we must move faster, and we must be in deadly earnest. Let's continue and take a look at one of the others. It says, "Let the workers of God, for God, manifest tact and talent and originate devices by which to communicate light to those who are near and to those that are far off." And that's basically translating into stay connected. All right? Let's go one more. God will guide His messengers in the adoption of new methods to arrest the attention of men and convince their judgment. Get personal. If you want to get somebody, if you want to convince their judgment, you have to be personal with them. Get personal. He will give skill and understanding in the use of effective illustrations to arrest the attention of people. That's the Gospel Herald. All right. So, my name is Neville Nevilling, and I'm here to tell you about digital church and cell phone evangelism. That's what it is. All right? So if you need to know where to find me, you can find me at that address. It's pretty easy, neville@awr.org. And so let's take a look at this a little bit. That's the reality in 2018. Isn't that so? That's amazing. I take a look at my kids, and they sit right next to each other, and they're texting each other. That's exactly what they do. But that's the reality. They're sitting right next to each other, and every one of them busy on their cell phones, and everybody busy on the technical platform that they prefer. So they communicate on the technical platform that they prefer. So, let's take a look at some other interesting things. The 4 important criteria we cannot ignore today. The first one, we need to increase innovation. Mrs. White says we need to devise methods. The second thing that's important, we need to move faster. She says we need to arrest the attention of people. The third thing is we need to stay connected. She says we need to communicate to people. And 4, we need to get personal, and she says we need to convince their judgment. And these 4 things are the 4 things come to, or the 4 conclusions come to, by a lot of research done by that man, Clifford DeWitt, and he's the Chief Innovations Officer at Microsoft. So Mrs. White was like a couple of hundred years before him, ahead of him. But that's what he said. Right. I took that photograph in Georgia. But this pretty much sort of tells us something about the people of today as well. It was interesting that was on the wall. I celebrate myself. And you know, pretty much today, the emphasis are on self. Everybody's only concerned about themselves, not concerned about anybody else. And they're also just concerned about having just their rights. So our world looks like this. It's quite self-sufficient. That's how our world looks. You need to speak the language if you want to be heard. If you want anybody to hear you, you better speak their language. And that's not necessarily English or Dutch or Farsi or whatever. You will mostly be granted 8 seconds to capture their attention. That's scary, isn't it? But that's what research tells us. You've got 8 seconds. For Generation Z, you've got 8 seconds. If you've caught their attention in 8 seconds, that's it. They will listen. If you haven't, they're not interested in listening. They desire less face-to-face communication. Well, we saw that in that photo that I put up. They're all busy with their cell phones or their iPads or whatever. But the research tells us they desire less face-to-face communication. They want to communicate, but they want to do that using the technology platforms of their choice. So they will decide whether they want to operate on WhatsApp, Viber, WeChat, QQ, whatever. They will choose the platform. They want to communicate, but if you want to communicate with them, you communicate to them on their platform of choice. Alan Rice, the CEO of Rice Corp, he says this, he says, digital and social trends changes the way in which we consume content. And that's a fact. Today, we are moving into very interesting directions. For instance, if you have noticed, you will see that even television and movies are actually making way for something else. Maybe you have not noticed that, because it's very subtle what is happening. Who of you have heard of or have seen the movie Avatar? Okay. Have you heard about something called augmented reality? Okay. Mostly people talk of it as just AR. You will actually see that in your supermarket stores. I was in your supermarket stores yesterday and the day before, and strangely enough, right there where all the electronic equipment is, there's this little placard up there, and it says, AR, test it. Augmented reality. What does that mean? It means that people do not want to see other people in movies anymore. They prefer seeing something such as an animation or something like an animation or an avatar. You might take note that even on Facebook and on a couple of the other apps that are available on cell phones, you will find it on Picturesque and you'll find it on others. They allow you to create an avatar of yourself. And then you speak through your avatar and not you. You will notice that. You will notice that the music is doing that. What's it? High School something or the other. There's a television series on High School or the other. The little girl that sings there, she sings through her avatar. Have you seen that? Yeah. So it's coming in. Because the people don't prefer face-to-face communication. The research told them that. They prefer less face-to-face communication. So now they're talking through animation, they're talking through avatars, they're talking through augmented reality. So we need to find different things. If we're going to reach people, if we're going to talk to people, we need to find the platforms of their choice. And Ellen Rice is saying digital and social trends are changing the way in which we consume content. So we need to take cognizance of that. So, what are we doing? We are actually, in cell phone evangelism, we are highlighting micro moments. That's what we are doing. And we'll get to that. You'll understand that a little bit later on as we go along. But we're highlighting micro moments. We do this through something called high touch, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. High touch means that its personalized content will be more and more significant. It will maintain loyalty and position the presenter as a trusted source. That is, if you give high touch communication. That's what will happen. The personalized content through high-touch communication will be more and more significant. It will maintain the loyalty and the position, and it'll place the presenter as the trusted source. Okay? Right. We're working with centers of digital evangelism, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So we use this data, all the data that I've given you, all the research that we've seen, we use this data, and we put that together with the fact that we have to compete in this environment, because remember, that's the environment we live in. So as a church, as an organization that wants to speak to people, that want to tell them about what we've got, we want to give them the information of the Bible, we want to tell them what's at stake in terms of their eternity. If we want to do that, we're competing in their world. We're competing for their attention. And so that's where we are, in that environment. If we have to compete in this environment to spread the evangelistic gospel and come up with a model of evangelism that is driven by these factors. For many across the world, it has been their turning point. Evangelism on cell phone. It's been their turning point. That's a fact. So that's more or less what is happening. Many people are coming through cell phones, through digital church, are actually coming into the church. Digital church means that we run a Sabbath opening, Sabbath school program, Sabbath closing, Sabbath school background studies, prayer meetings, study questions, everything that we can possibly think of, we run through cell phone. That's possible. That's possible. Yeah.
Some might ask the question, why would you run a digital church through cell phone? Why not just invite them to church?
Okay.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. The question is, why would you run a digital church through cell phone? Why don't you just invite them to the church? Remember what the research said? They want less face-to-face communication. It's very interesting. We have now had a couple of requests throughout from various places where people have actually said to us, we want to be part of the church. We actually want to take part in church, but we don't want to come to church. It's very interesting. There's very different answers, but we've got a lady on an island very close, Palau it is, I think. Palau, yeah. It's right out there, Indonesia, Philippines, out that way. Well, she runs a church basically there, and we've got a hospital there, and she's running the church in the hospital. And there's a tremendous amount of people on Palau. They do not want to go to church. They're not interested in going to church, but they want to be part of church. Choice. Youngsters want to be part of church. Young people. They don't necessarily want to be seen in church.
Maybe a generational thing.
It's a generational thing. It is. Generation Z is, that's the research that's telling us. But there's other factors as well. Factors that we have found out with a little bit of work that we've done. Crime statistics. People don't want to go out of their homes anymore. They want to stay in their homes. They're scared of going out. People have made some very bad choices in their life. They have regretted those choices when they understand what the truth is all about. So they are ashamed of how they look, what they've done, etc., etc., etc. And so they prefer to hide behind. It's safe. It's a safe situation. Nobody's seeing me, but I am part of this church. So there's a lot of reasons that they do that for. Yeah, but that does happen. Sometimes the church environment has become an environment that they don't feel comfortable in that environment anymore. Sometimes churches put bands up front and play loud music, and people are just not comfortable with that, and so they stay away. But they actually don't want to stay away. They want to be part of the church. They're just not comfortable in the church. Yes.
But during Pentecost and revival, isn't fellowship a key?
Yes. Yes.
So how do you get the fellowship if you're isolated?
Exactly. Yes. It's a very good question. She says Pentecost, with Pentecost, basically, fellowship is a thing. Now, how do you get fellowship if you're not in the church? Well, you actually do get fellowship, and that's the high touch element on this. I'll show you about that. We'll show you about that, where we actually reach out and touch people across space. That's very interesting. Let me give you some examples. I'm scared going off the mic because I don't know exactly what the mic is doing, but so let me stand here. I was a radio announcer for 17 years of my life. And I was given the opportunity to do one of the most dreadful radio programs that one can think of. It's a radio program that basically kills an announcer. There's no creativity required, no intelligence whatsoever, and it's just absolutely killing. Basically, what you do in the radio program, it's an exchange program, a swap program. So somebody phones up and says, I've got a laptop computer, and I want to change that for 5 chickens, please. This is my number, this is my name. And all the announcer does is does exactly that. We've had this person phoning, this is the person's number, they've got a laptop, they want to change it for 5 chickens. Anybody interested, please call her. That's what you do. I mean, really, that's not a nice thing to do. So you don't want to go there. But anyway, we all had to get a turn, and eventually my turn came along, and the management of the station came to me and they said, would you please do this program? I said, no, I don't. They said, well, everybody's had a chance, you better get a chance too. And I said, okay, well, okay. But can I have a request? Can I do it my way? And they said, yeah, you can do it your way. We'll go with that. I said, all right. I started telling stories in between. So I did the exchange program, but I started telling stories, and I did way out stories. So for instance, in my country where I come from, we have got a little town at the coast called Luderitz. So I said to them, I went down to Luderitz this weekend, and I visited some people there, and these people said that they want to treat me, they want to give me some crayfish. And I said, well, I don't eat crayfish. I'm a vegetarian, but I'm thrilled that you want to give me the crayfish, but can't you perhaps give me the crayfish and I'll take it back and put it in my fish pond back home? And they said, well, you can't put it in your fish pond because, crayfish don't do that. They do salt water. And I said, well, maybe we can go to marine biology and maybe they can give me a recipe so that I can change my water so that it's good enough so that they can live in my fish pond. And they said, well, maybe we should do that. And we did go there. And they did give us a recipe. And then this guy that I stayed with, Norbert Kloster, he actually made little oxygen masks. And we put the oxygen masks on these crayfish. And I transported them all the 800 kilometers back to my house. And, I changed the water in my fish pond, made it a saltwater little fish pond. And now the crayfish is living in my fish pond. And the people believed me. They did. It's not true. But they believed me. When I moved from Windhoek to Otjiwarongo, the neighbor across the street came bringing me a bread and said, welcome to Otjiwarongo. We are so happy. Now, can I see the crayfish? And I said, you've got to be joking me. How did you think that's possible? I mean, oxygen masks for crayfish, really? But there's a very interesting point about that. In Otjiwarongo, a couple of days after I moved there, the mayor of Otjiwarongo's wife saw me in town and stopped me, and she said, I want to tell you something. I said, what? She said, you know what? You go with me everywhere I go. If I bath, you are with me in the bathroom. If I go to the toilet, you are with me in the toilet. If I go to sleep, you are with me in my bedroom. And that's exactly what it is. They take that radio with them. And they listen because they like it. And you are all over. You become the trusted source. And they take that. And in a sense, you are very familiar, and you actually do fellowship. Okay? And I see the same thing in America. I was watching some little bits of television. I don't watch television, but my friend, he's a television fanatic. So he puts on the television and he flips through all these channels. Sorry, I'm just joking. But basically he did that. He doesn't do that. He really doesn't. But he did that now just because we wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and we've got nothing to do. So we flip through TV channels. And there was this one channel, I can't remember what it was, but anyway, there was this lady, and there was this callers calling in and talking with her. And I knew it when I was listening, because they were saying, I'm so happy that you're back on the air. I'm so happy that you're talking to us again. And can I quickly tell you my story? And I knew that person was somebody as well. Wherever they go, that person goes with him. I knew that because I could see that. So it's not different here. And it's exactly the same thing with cell phone evangelism. When you are doing digital church and you're doing it right, you are giving fellowship to those people. They get to know you. They get to understand you. It's their church. And for them, it's absolute fellowship. So it does happen. All right. So what are we doing with cell phone evangelism? We want to impact people in the environment that they are living in, right? That's what we're saying. We want to impact people. We want to get this message across because we've got the best story to tell, haven't we? Absolutely. There's no better story in the world. We have got the best story, and we need to tell it. And you know, our story is not so difficult. Our story is actually a simple story. What did Jesus tell the disciples to tell the people? He told them, go and tell them that I died for you, that I was buried for you, and that I resurrected. I am alive, and I am coming to fetch you. That's it. That's basically the story. And that's what we need to tell people. We sometimes forget about that. Anyway, we want to impact people wherever they are. And to impact them, we use the cell phone to broadcast. And that's why AWR picked us up, and that's why we're working with AWR, because in a sense, we are broadcasting as much as any radio is broadcasting. Whether it's direct audio broadcast, whether it's internet radio, whether it's standard radio, whether it's cell phone radios, whether it's radio on Facebook or on internet, it does not matter. It's broadcasting. And basically, we are impacting them through broadcasting via cell phone. And we want that broadcasting to lead the full circle to baptism. That's exactly what we want to do. Otherwise, it's useless. Otherwise, it's just telling stories. Then I might tell them the stories of the crayfish. You see what I'm getting at? No, we want to tell them the story, but we want to tell them the story with an end goal. And when we want to baptize them, they need to come to church. So we reach them there where they are away from us, far away. We don't even know how they look. We've got no idea where they are. But from there, we've got to lead them all the way right to there, meaning that we've got to fetch them, make them comfortable, get them into church, and get them into the baptismal fund, and make them members, true members of a real church. Does that make sense? Okay. These are two of my friends. They're Canadians, actually. That's Anna Bradford, and that's Dana McFarlane. And they live in Hamilton, in Canada. But they came and visited me where I live. And this little structure there is way up in the north of my country on the border between Namibia and Zambia. It's on the Zambezi River. Now, that's the type of structure that you get there, and the others are grass huts. It's rural area. But even in that rural area, and even with that clay huts, Airtel 4G. And you can get internet, and you can do cell phone coverage. So basically what I'm telling you is, with cell phones, we can reach people anywhere. There's no place where we can't reach them. I've just come back from India. Tim and I go to India sometimes. I've been with Tim there twice, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Tim, anytime you want somebody, I'll go with you. We'll make a plan, but I'll go. I love India. And the first time I went to India, it was really, really funny for me. Afterwards, in retrospect, initially it wasn't funny when I got there because I was tired. The trip there from my country is long and it's tedious and tiring. And so I got there, I got to Bengaluru. And we were booked into a hotel. Tim was also in the same hotel as I. It's not a fancy hotel, but it's, in Indian terms, I think it's sort of a very good hotel. But it's really not a good hotel, if you know what I mean. Because in India, all definitions that you have in life gets changed. If you think something's dirty, no, you don't know what dirty is. If you think something, no, you don't. You have got no idea. Go to India. Then you know what it is like. You first need to go there. Then you set up your definitions. Because, no, you don't know. It's as simple as that. So now I am tired. I am not feeling too well. I want to just sleep. I get into this hotel. And I think, do I really have to sleep here? Is this like real? And I talk to the manager of the hotel, and he apologizes, and he gets me another room. And that room is not really much better. But anyway, by this time, I'm too tired. I said, look, forget it. I'm fine. Don't worry. And I get down and I sleep. That afternoon, I wake up, and I look out of the window. And Tim will know exactly what I'm talking about. When you look down from the window on the side that Tim and I were on, down there was one of the little Indian homesteads, whatever you want to, I don't know what you want to call that. But, I mean, it's not a house. It's just a few zincs. It's open. There's an open fire. It really is not clean. It's dirty. It doesn't even smell good. And then there's like really, you can see people are living there, but yeah, you know, the fact that you don't even know how people can live there. So it's not good looking. That's what I'm trying. I want to get the picture in your mind so that you sort of understand what I'm talking. And right there, in the middle of all of that, there's this little Indian girl walking around with a smartphone. You know, it's just like, no, this cannot be true. But yes, it's true. She's walking around with a smartphone. And then I start talking to people, and they tell me, no, but there's this company called Geo. And Geo came in, and basically, the one thing that they did was make communication possible throughout India. And it's dirt cheap. It's almost free. And it's like unlimited. So it doesn't matter where you go in the world. No matter how poor the people are, that's what I'm trying to say here. Even the poorest of the poor, and they've got internet and smartphones. Yes, they don't have Apples and Samsungs. They maybe have the Chinese variety and some Indian makes. But you know what? They work. Simple thing is they work. So we can impact people wherever they are. It's worldwide reach. So cell phone evangelism is what we do. Now let's take a look at that. And cell phone evangelism, basically when we set up the cell phone broadcasting list, it'll look something like that on an iPhone. On an Android phone, it'll look slightly different, but it'll look something like that. And that, the reason I'm giving you like that is basically that is a cell phone sermon broken up into sound bites. We don't give one full sermon, because remember what we said, the attention span, 8 seconds to get your interest. And if I interest you, then I will be willing to listen. So we've got 8 seconds to get the attention. Once we've got the attention, if they're happy, they will listen. But we need to break it up into sound bites because time is of the essence in today's life. People will not take up listening to a sermon if it says 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour. Not easily, because they'll say, I don't have the time. But if the soundbite is 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, they'll say, yeah, I've got 6 minutes. I can listen to this. I'm interested. Yeah, I'll listen. I'll give you 3 minutes of my time. I'll give you 5 minutes of my time. And if that is interesting, they will say, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes more. You get the picture? And in the end, they will listen to the hour, but don't put it up front, because if you put it up front, they'll say, I don't have an hour. That's too long. Right. So basically, it'll look like that. We're reaching people where they are on the cell phones. We're speaking their language. We're using their preferred method of communication. We're allowing them to choose their technology platform, whether that be Android or iOS. We are allowing them to stay connected to the church. We are allowing them to stay connected with us. Now, the interesting thing here again is, even in the modern society of today, and no matter which church you are, whether it's Roman Catholic or Congregationalist or Presbyterian or Methodist or whatever the church is, the pastors do not visit their congregation. It's not uniquely Adventist. Believe me, it's all over. They don't. But all of a sudden, you are on their cell phone at least once a week. That means they are connected to the church, but they're connected to the church through you. That's interesting. So now, when you talk to them on their cell phone, something else. The moment I have your phone number, and I put your phone number on my address book, and you put my number on your address book, guess what? It's already personal. Guess what? I'm already in your personal space. You're already in my personal space. You see what I'm getting at? So now, when we are talking, I'm talking to you on a one-on-one basis anyway. You get the picture? So it's already a personal situation. All right? So we can get personal on cell phones much quicker and much faster than we can get in any other way. But at the same time, we respect the people's time. Okay. For the first part, that is all I'm going to say. Now I'm going to ask my friend Gideon to come up and tell you some more, and then I'll wrap it up.
I need. Can everybody hear me? Perfect. Right. The purpose of this evening is to create a team in this church that will start with digital evangelism from this church. And that means am I correct? The cell phone is absolute king. What are you pointing to me? Oh, I see. Right. Right. Sorry about that. My apologies. The cell phone is absolutely king. During the day, the Bible is on your pedestal next to the bed. But where is your cell phone? It's on you. It's in your pocket. None of us are ever without a cell phone. We are now in the digital age. I mean, where I live in South Africa, I went to pick up some of my laborers, and they were a bit late one day. And I was sitting in my vehicle waiting for them to come, and on the grass, there were about 5 or 6 laborers waiting to be picked up for what they call peace jobs. In other words, they get work for the day, and they get paid for the day. I don't know what you call that in America, but there we call it peace jobs. And they get paid, a minimal wage for the day's work. And I noticed that they were lying on the grass without work, jobless, but they were playing with their cell phones. And I walked up, I got out of the motor car, walked up to them, and everyone was busy with a smartphone. Absolutely unbelievable. Smartphones are now very affordable in my country. They've really come down in price dramatically. Now, it's very easy when we give you a set of sermons to load that onto your desktop or onto your laptop and to send those sermons out to a group of people, and you need no theological degree for that. You need no expertise in digital technology for that. We all can work a cell phone. We all can work at a laptop or a computer. And we all know how to load studies onto our computer. So it's very, very easy to actually then become a digital evangelist. But we do not want this congregation to have all of you people working on your cell phone, sending out Bible studies once a week. We would like to have a team that get together, and that team is supportive to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of you that actually send out the Bible studies and become digital evangelists. And that's why I'm here. I'm going to explain that to you now. I want to demonstrate to you how easy it is to do cell phone evangelism. A lady phoned me, Alvin, if you can get the blind one ready. A lady phoned me November last year, and she said to me her name was Anna Marie. And I said, Anna Marie, who are you? And she said, I receive your Revelation of Hope studies once a week on my cell phone. And after speaking to her for a couple of minutes, I realized that this was a very, very special lady. And I would like to play this video that AWR made of her when they were there with me March this year.
Hi, I'm Camp. Muteman, and this is your AWR 360 moment. I am so eager to share this story with you. When we were in South Africa, we were privileged to meet the most wonderful woman. Her name is Anne Marie. This young lady is doing cell phone evangelism, but what's amazing is that she's blind. And her story begins about 16 years ago. She actually had kidney failure, and both of her kidneys were shutting down, and her sister donated a kidney to her. Then she was on dialysis, and then later her leg was amputated. And the thing was is that she never really gave up her joy, I guess. You could put it that way. I mean, yes, she was sad, and she didn't want to be in a wheelchair. But you know what? A few months ago, her friend forwarded a Bible prophecy series to her phone, and she got it, and she started listening to the Bible truths. She was so enthralled with what she was learning that she started forwarding the messages to 8 people speaking Afrikaans, because that's one of the main languages in South Africa, and 2 English-speaking friends. And she is doing a wonderful, wonderful work in cell phone evangelism now. And let's show you how she goes about doing this. It's incredible.
Okay, because I'm a blind person, I'm using a smartphone that talks to me, so I can do everything on my phone, like this.
Rows 19 to 20. Your voice message, duration, 2 minutes 53 seconds. The 25th voice message, duration, 2 minutes 54 seconds. The 24th of October 2017 at 6:17 p.m. Current, skip forward, delete, forward. Frequently contacted, Arno, Yahoo. Double, Arno. Double tap to select, selected, Arno. Forward, button.
How amazing is Anne Marie? What an example to each of us. You know, if you too want to do cell phone evangelism, go to awr.org and click on our tutorials, and we'll show you how, simply, you can be a cell phone evangelist. Thank you for all of your prayers and support. This has been an AWR 360 moment.
Sugar diabetes. And within 4 weeks, she was blind. And a couple of weeks later, her right leg was amputated just below the knee because of sugar diabetes. She's completely blind. This is now 18 years later. She's about 36 years of age. She receives from my brother the Afrikaans version of Revelation of Hope that Neville recorded. And she receives from me the English version. And she sends that on to 8 of her Afrikaans friends and 2 to the English ones to 2 of her friends. She's blind. Now, if she can do that, you can do that. A second illustration, my brother Marius has been an elder with a very large congregation in central Pretoria in South Africa for the last 32 years. The beginning of September last year, he came to me and said, Gideon, when I look at the audience, I don't see any of my fruit. There's nobody here that is here because of me. I've been an elder for 32 years. I'm going to resign as an elder. I then said to him, listen to this CD and phone me when you've listened a bit here and a bit there, etc. I don't expect you to sit and listen to all of those studies. And he did that. He phoned me 2 days later. He said, Gideon, what must I do with this? And I said to him, that is cell phone evangelism. And I explained cell phone evangelism to him. And he asked, what must I do? And I said, it's very, very easy. He was quite excited with the idea of actually sitting at home and taking these recordings and sending them out to his friends. And I explained to him, go to 10 of your friends. And very easily you say to them, do you understand the book of Revelation? And they will obviously say, no, I do not understand the book of Revelation. Then you react and say, listen, I'm aware of a very easy to understand series of studies that you receive privately on your phone. You're not part of a group. You receive them privately on your phone. And you've got 7 days before the next study lands on your phone to sit with your own Bible and go through these studies. And in a period of a few weeks, you will master the book of Revelation. He said, Gideon, I'm going to try that. And he went out and he contacted 10 of his friends that were non-Adventists on his cell phone. He went to them personally and said, sir, do you understand the book of Revelation? And he said, no, etc., etc., etc. He approached 10 people, 9 people said yes. On the 27th of September last year, it's a year and a little bit ago, he started his first group with 9 people on a WhatsApp social media group. This is now, let's say, 12 months later. Marius has 22 groups with 3,200 participants. His first baptism was his own son that was a drug addict for 15 years. The 17th of March this year, he was baptized. He's had many baptisms. Now the whole church is enthused. All the elders want to get involved, and it is really amazing. Now, I would like to just play the recording that I made, Alvin, so that I did this for AWR, so you can just hear the recording. Remember that he started with 9 people on the 27th of September. A month later, I actually interviewed him. He had 5 groups with 192 people a month later, 4 or 5 weeks later. And now, 22 groups, 3,200 people. Please listen to this.
Good morning, I'm Gideon Pelser from Global Cell Phone Ministries here in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm interviewing my brother Marius, who is reaching out in a very remarkable way. Marius is an elder at the Philadelphia Adventist congregation in Pretoria. We are second-generation Adventists. Our father was a full-time evangelist his whole life. So this has obviously rubbed off onto us. Marius, I believe you are using your cell phone for evangelism.
Yes, I am.
How many persons are you reaching with your phone at the moment?
At the moment, it's 192.
And how long ago did you start this? It was the other day, wasn't it?
The 27th of September, that's about 4 weeks ago.
Wonderful. Now, of these 192 people, how many are Adventists?
About 22.
Right. So that means that you're reaching approximately 170 more or less that are totally not outside of our denomination.
That is correct.
Where do most of these members stay? Where do they stay? Do you have any persons that are members outside of the country?
Mostly in South Africa and Namibia.
Right. And the reason for that is because you're doing this in the local language, which is Afrikaans.
I'm doing it in Afrikaans, yes.
Yes. Now, what evangelistic messages are you sending out to your 192 listeners?
At the moment, I'm sending the recorded Pastor Neville Nevilling's Revelations of Hope series.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's the series that he took up the beginning of the year, that he recorded the beginning of the year, and that he sent out, and you've actually got a copy of that, and you're resending that out.
That is correct, yeah.
Now, how often per week do you send out studies?
Every Tuesday and Friday evening.
That's wonderful. That gives people time to assimilate, look in their own Bibles, ask questions, etc., etc. Tell me, what do you do with questions when you receive?
When I started this, I handled the questions myself, but at the moment, we asked Roy Palmer to handle all the questions, and he does it.
Right. Now, after the series is over, what will you be doing then?
It's never going to be over. It's snowballing. It's just, I've got 5 groups already. It's just going on and on and on. Every week, as every weekend comes, I'll make a new group, and they start by one again. So this is not going to stop for the next 10 years.
That's wonderful news, Morris. I'm very proud of you. So what you're saying is in the last 4 weeks, you started with one group, it then developed into a second group, and then you had more people that wanted to participate, but because you'd already sent out 3 or 4 or 5 studies, you couldn't include them at that point, so you started a new group, and this is now snowballing, and at the moment you've got 5 groups.
That is correct, yeah.
So technically you're saying that in the next couple of months, you could end up with maybe 20 or 30 groups, and that will possibly stabilize, and then when you've finished with group 1 and you've done all 22 studies, you will obviously have other groups to carry on with, and we will possibly be able to give you new material that you can then send to group 1, etc., as an example.
Yes, that is correct.
Marius, thank you very much. We're really, at Global Cell Phone Ministries, very, very proud of you. In fact, Marius is now one of a group of 7 people that are doing this, and this is just a very, very good example of active Adventists where members are getting involved. And because Global Cell Phone Ministries is in partnership with Adventist World Radio and total membership involvement, we want more people like Marius to get involved. Marius, thank you very much. We're very proud of you.
Isn't that phenomenal? You approached 10 people. 9 said yes. The 27th of September last year. A month later, he had 5 groups with 192 people. 22 groups today, 3,200 people. And it's growing. Because what happens is, let's say, for instance, you're receiving Bible studies. You are very impressed. So you tell your friends at work, you tell your neighbors, you tell your family members. And then you send their contact details in to Marius or to me or to Neville. What then happens is we can't put you onto that present group because we've already done 2 or 3 or 4 studies. So we have to start a new group. So this, did you hear that? Marius said it 3 times. This will never end. This keeps snowballing was the word he used. It's unbelievable. It has legs of itself. It's absolutely unbelievable. So if you can put my PowerPoint on, please, Alvin, I will appreciate. Is it on? Perfect, thank you. Right. The purpose of anything that we do from a spiritual point of view when we share Bible studies with other people is obviously so that this leads from broadcasting to the baptismal pool. That is the purpose. We need to then start nurturing them and making them good Adventists, etc., etc. What I would like to share with you here is, although the cell phone ministry is a magnificent entering wedge into people's hearts and into their homes, we have a very small, limited window of opportunity. Can you see that date, the 18th of August, just the other day? Look what happened on the 18th of August. Neville, criminalizing evangelism. So the doors for us are closed in Neville. Unbelievable. That already happened in Russia, as I understand, a year ago. If the law's been enforced, I do not know. But a year ago, they actually also, this law was also made about a year ago and enacted now, the 18th of August, a year later. So the same thing in Russia at the moment. We look at the country next door. 7,000 Christians forced to flee their homes as violence escalates, just because they're Christians. We look at in India, a 9-year-old girl gang raped, murdered in India after her family converted to Christianity. Absolutely unbelievable. We look at Rwanda, up in the northern part of Africa, north-central part of Africa. Over 8,000 churches close after government passes law regulating religious groups. Can you see that we have a small window of opportunity? And we've got a small country like Namibia. On the 27th of November last year, they had a massive congress of their ruling political party called SWAPO. They are now starting to look at cyber security. That's what that word means, cyber security. So countries all over the world are now looking at cyber security. Theresa May is looking at it in England. The German Chancellor, Merkel, is looking at it for Germany, etc., etc. I don't know about the situation in your country, but it will happen here as well. Now, we know that the devil is using this so that for the purposes of regulating, if I say something bad against you on social media, in my country at the moment in South Africa, you cannot take me to court. But once those laws are promulgated, you can now take me to court, so you are being protected. But behind all of this, the devil will be using this as an instrument to close the doors for religion, as I've just shown you. So we have a very small window of opportunity open for us. Very, very small. Friends, this is a very famous quotation I would like to repeat. Testimonies, Volume 9, page 117. The work of God in this earth can never be finished until men and women comprising our church membership rally to the work and unite their efforts with those of ministers and church officers. There is no way that we can sit back as church members and wait for the ministers to finish the work. I don't know anything about your country when it comes to our church structures, but in my country, our ministers have 3, 4, and up to 11 churches per minister. How can that minister run the church? It's impossible. That means that the opportunity for you as the laity, as the leaders, and as the members of the church is greater for you to walk into the shoes of the leadership and take over the running of the church. And that's why we are here today. Remember, the purpose of this meeting this evening is to empower you to start a digital evangelism team that will run with evangelism from the privacy of your own home, very, very effectively. Okay, what I would like to do is I would like you to go to, Alvin, to 360.org, as we did just now, and go into the organogram, please. Now, from here onwards, everything that I'm saying to you, I will give you in a written form. So you don't have to make notes. You will get all of this in written form, because some of the smaller detail you will never remember. That's impossible. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of smaller things. So it's very organized. You will be able to get that in written form. So don't worry about making notes. Don't worry about the finer details. Right. I wonder if I should take this and walk with it, and then so that, yes, that might be better. Right. First of all, I want you to remember that, and you will get that just in the documents I'm going to show you. That's Cell Phone Evangelism 360.org. For those that are listening online, please make a note of CPE360.org. You go into that website. This is our website for the digital evangelism that belongs to AWR 360. And there at the top, you will see there's an organogram, enrollment form, a team form, digital instructions, and the links that go to all the studies. Please, Alvin, please go into the organogram so we can just have a look at that, please. Right, here I would like you to notice that we have a digital evangelism team for this specific congregation. This team will then choose a team leader, and it's not necessarily your minister. Neville and I feel strongly that it should not be your minister. It should be one of you, so if ministers get transferred, this doesn't collapse. Do you understand? This must stand on its own legs. You must be the supporting structure and the people that are involved in keeping this team going without somebody coming and going and the whole thing collapses. Right, so the team will then choose a digital team leader. Then you have a prayer group. Now, a prayer group is very, very important. If you want any congregation to grow together, to evangelize together, to worship together, to do everything together very successfully, you must pray together. So one of the participants on the team is a prayer group leader, and that you do on the WhatsApp or on any social media platform. I suggest the WhatsApp. It's very easy to download WhatsApp. In fact, it's the biggest one that is downloaded on iTunes. Who of you have WhatsApp on your phones? One, or most of you. That's great. That's wonderful. It's the most popular social media platform in the world. 2 billion participants, 42 million messages per day. Absolutely, 1 billion messages per day are sent. Absolutely unbelievable software that. So that person will then create a WhatsApp group for the congregation members, and he will then use the book Evangelism, or Steps to Christ, or Desire of Ages. I suggest Evangelism. He will then maybe choose a paragraph which is very apt for evangelism, and he might send that to, let's say, 2 of you and say, tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, I'll be placing this on our prayer group. Prepare a prayer, type a prayer out in reaction to this. So then during the day, people will then wake up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. Even when they get to work at 9 o'clock, they will then go into the WhatsApp group site and then actually participate in the prayer that was placed that morning. So what we do is we pray together every morning at 5 o'clock, and we've got one person on the group team that is the leader of that specific group and leads out in that. The next morning, he might send another paragraph to 2 or 3 other people. The next morning to 2 or 3 other people again. Do you understand? Keeps it fresh. This is not a chat group. This is not a socializing group. This is not where you say, listen, my cat is sick, what must I do? Or I've got a sore stomach, what do I do? That's totally prohibited. The purpose of this prayer group is one word: evangelism. Evangelism. And that's what this group is all about. Okay. You can have other groups that are social groups for your church, if so need be. Right, so that's very, very clear. That the digital evangelism team comprises of a team leader, and under him you've got the group leader that leads out in prayer. Then you've got a participant coordinator. Now his job description is to prod the church members in the church, to speak to people that you work with, you speak to your neighbors, and convince them to participate in the Revelation of Hope Bible study series. In other words, we want willing participants. You do not just give a name and a telephone number. Many of us receive messages like that every single day. I've gotten to the point where I delete them if I do not know where it comes from. I don't even open them. I don't have time. When you receive a few hundred messages per day, we don't have time to literally look at those. So they must be willing participants. And once again, it's very easy for you as a church member to speak to your neighbor or somebody that you work with, or family members, or even strangers. Do you understand the book of Revelation? And most people will say, no, I don't understand the book of Revelation. Then it's very easy to say to them, listen, I am aware of a series of studies which are very simple. You receive them privately in your cell phone. You receive 1 or 2 a week. Marius, my brother, sends out 2 a week. I send out 1 a week. Neville sends out 1 a week. We like 1 time a week. It gives people time to actually assimilate and go through the study, because people are busy. And then you can take your own Bible and go through the study, etc., etc. And within a couple of weeks, you will understand the book of Revelation. Now, in my country, we have a very large Calvinistic population. And they believe the book of Revelation is a closed book. So we teach our people the book of Revelation is not a closed book. The word revelation means what? The Greek for revelation is apocalypse. That means to remove the veil. In other words, to make it visible. Do you understand? That's why the translators use the word revelation. Chapter 1, verse 1 is very clear. This is the revelation of Jesus Christ. He did not come to hide behind something. He came to reveal the character of his Father, etc., etc. Right, so it's a very visible event in the life of Jesus. Chapter 1, verse 3 says, the person that reads this and keeps it and understands this, he will be blessed. The same in chapter 22, verse 7, etc., etc. So it's no ways that the book can be closed. It's not a closed book. And then you can say to the people, The first study will be the 7 reasons why it's important to understand the book of Revelation. There are 7 very important reasons why every one of us should clearly understand the book of Revelation. So once they understand that, they will really be enthused and encouraged to actually say, yes, make me a participant. So the participant coordinator, his job description is to prod the people that come to church, the church members, to bring 2 or 3 willing participants to church in an envelope every Sabbath. That's his job, is to do that. Then the social media marketing person. This is somebody that understands social media. And as an example, we have the Revelation of Hope advert here that I placed last year for one of our studies, which you will receive now as a sample. This is very easy. You go onto Facebook. All that you must remember that when you go, how many of you are not on Facebook? 2 people out of the whole lot of you. Right, so everybody here, practically 99% is on Facebook. So Facebook is the most fantastic vehicle to evangelize with. The most fantastic vehicle. Because you can connect with people that you've never... I have, with my evangelistic series, Revelation of Hope, we have participants from 6 of the 7 continents. Penguins haven't got cell phones yet. So we literally have 6 of the 7 continents. It's absolutely unbelievable. I have people from India, from all over the world, from your country, from Canada, and I broadcast from South Africa, Johannesburg. So it really, Facebook is unbelievable. So that person, the social media marketing person, will be able to go to Facebook and change the setting from friends. Because all of us that are using Facebook have our setting on friends. In other words, what we post on Facebook is limited. It doesn't go worldwide. It goes to our friends. So you have to change that to public. Then you actually then place this advert on your Facebook page, and then the whole world will be able to see that. Absolutely unbelievable, literally. And at the back of this, or at the end of this advert, there's an invitation which says, listen, if you would like to participate in these Revelation of Hope series of studies, SMS your name to this number. And you could be anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter where that SMS comes from, he will be one of your participants. So this is quite easy. This says, do you understand the book of Revelation? Broadcasting soon, Revelation's eternal sign in earth's last conflict. This is a message for all of us. It is not a message for one religious group or another. It is not a message of one denomination or another. It is God's final call to all of his people. It is a call to worship the Creator. How do we worship the Creator of heaven and earth? How does he remind us of his creative power, etc., etc.? This is a series of broadcasts that you on the book of Revelation, and then the invitation to send your contact details to that specific number. So in other words, those digital evangelists, those red participants on the team, their numbers will be at the back of this advert. Now, have you noticed on your Facebook, there are certain adverts on the right-hand side that come up every now and again. Now, if you are a BMW lover, I saw that Alvin's got a lovely, nice 740. If you are a BMW lover and you've ever gone onto Facebook and looked at a BMW ad, Facebook will remember that you like BMWs and you like motor cars. So obviously, some adverts will actually appear there. Some will be BMWs, some will be motor cars. If you've gone in there for a recipe and you've clicked on recipes, it will remember that, and there will always be adverts for recipes, etc., etc. So those are paid advertising. And paid advertising is not so expensive. The other day, Neville and my other colleague, Dr. Roy, sent out a series of 6 studies on the first 6 chapters on the book of Daniel, which were health studies. And they placed an advert for the whole of South Africa. It was limited to the geographical area of South Africa. Am I correct, Neville? To the geographical area of South Africa. And it cost you how many dollars roughly, Neville? $16. And how many participants did you get out of $16? It was 9,422. I remember the figure very, very clearly. 9,422 participants for $16. My goodness. I will pay $1,600 for that. Really? That's amazing. So in other words, people that are interested in anything religious, they will receive that advert, that paid for advert on their Facebook. And as soon as they click, in other words, we bank $16 with Facebook, and every time somebody clicks, 50 cents they take for themselves. It goes back to Facebook. Do you understand? That's how it works. So it's pay by click. So you can have the free advertising, or you can have the pay by click, and they are both super effective. Very, very effective. Facebook is an unbelievable marketing and social media tool. It's changed the world. It has absolutely changed the world. So that is the purpose of the social media marketing team leader, right? Team member. And then he will be able to devise new advertising from time to time, to start new groups and get new people involved again, etc., etc. You're welcome. If there are any questions, just stop, just raise your hand, and I would love to answer your question. Right, then we have the digital evangelists. Now, these digital evangelists do the most important work. And that is, they send out the studies, but that is not their most important work. Yes, lady? Right, we will give you the studies. That's a good question. The lady asked, where would we get the studies? There is the links for all the studies. All 29 studies are on that link. So you just click on that, you open the link, and you can download the studies. It's as simple as that. Okay, they've all been recorded already. Right, very good question. Right, so these digital evangelists, they will then download those studies, load them onto their laptops, load them onto their computers, and send one study per week out to the groups. We're going to talk about the groups just now. How do you set that? How to set them up? What the difference is between an open group and a closed group, etc., etc. But these people have extra work, and Neville's going to talk about that very, very specially just now. I don't want to tread on his turf at this stage, but I just want to tell you the following. You cannot baptize a stranger. You only baptize a friend. And here digitally, we are talking to people living in Egypt or in California, and you sitting here in Washington, as an example. People that you've never met in your life will be on your group. They will not only be from this area, they will be from all over the world. That's the beauty of Facebook advertising. You have to befriend those people. Neville will be treating that just now. We call that high touch. Those are the people that you will baptize, that you spend time with. Okay, so these people have the most important work of making friends with people that I have never, ever met. And we've got 3 very good ways of doing that. Right, then there's technical support. And I've gotten to know Alvin, who's a technical fundi by the sounds of things. You need somebody like that will help these digital evangelists to set up WhatsApp Web. Do you know what is WhatsApp Web? Right, WhatsApp Web is like WhatsApp on your phone, and you do a few things. You go to Google and you say, I want on your laptop or on your desktop computer, and you say, download WhatsApp Web. And there'll come a QR code, a quick response code, a square graphic onto your screen, and you open up your phone, and it reads that within a split second, and a split second later, everything to do with WhatsApp, all your groups that's on your phone, lands up on your computer. It becomes an extension of what is on your phone. If your phone is off, that'll be off. Your phone cannot be away from the computer. This is now a bigger screen of what's happening on your handheld mobile phone. Okay, so it's a wonderful. This is why we do not work on cell phones evangelizing. We work on our laptops or on our computers. In any case, the studies you can't save them on your cell phone. That's 1.3 gig. Do you understand? That's a bit much. So you save them on your laptop, you save them on your computer, and from there you drop and drag and post them onto the group. Right, so that is that technical support. That person will help you, if you are a digital evangelist, to actually set up WhatsApp web at your home on your computer, or the four of you might come here one evening, and Alvin might come and sit here and help you to do that, etc. At the same time, he will teach you how to form a broadcast group. Very, very simple. All of these things are simple. They're just strange because you possibly have not done it before. I remember when I was still studying theology, an email came onto the market, and I never even knew what email was. and Neville and I studied together, and Neville came to me, and he was the cause of my first computer, and he said to me, Gideon, can I help you to write an email? I want to show you how to send an email. And I said, please show me. And it only took 10 minutes for him to show me, go there, click here, do this, type that, just like on your typewriter. I had a typewriter at university. Do you know what typewriters are? They don't exist today anymore. And well, 5 minutes later, Neville walked out with my typewriter. I didn't need that anymore. I now knew how to do an email, and since then, that's it. You'd only do it once. It's just strange, and thereafter you get used to it. So it's very simple to operate WhatsApp web on your desktop or your laptop. It's very simple to create a broadcast group. Once you've done one, you will know how to do it. And all the instructions I will give you tonight in writing as well in any case. So it's very, very easy for you to follow those steps one by one and just follow that. Right, so there's technical support. Then there's a question handler. These digital evangelists that send out the studies will have participants responding with a question, etc., etc. That happens all the time. You won't be inundated with questions. You might have, let's say, 500 people on 2 groups, right? And you might receive 1 or 2 or 3 questions a week. That is something that you can handle. Now, if you want chaos in your congregation, is where anybody just answers a question. That person has to be approved by the church board. No doubt about that. The question handler must be approved by the church board because that question must be answered correctly. Now, just now, I will show you another website that will solve that problem and make that very much easier. In fact, Elwin, if you can go into bibleanswers.co.za in the meantime, please. bibleanswers.co.za in the meantime. I will appreciate that. You can go back to the organogram, please. Yeah, that's quick. Wonderful. Right, so the question handler must be approved by the church board, etc. And the reason why he must be approved by the church board is, I'll give you an example. We were at about study number 4. And we don't hide the fact that we're Adventists, but we do not advertise it at that point. And somebody had a sniff in the nose and said, listen, and she wrote me an SMS and said, listen, what do I think of Prophet Ellen White? Now, number 1, I have to be honest. Number 2, I must answer the question. Number 3, I cannot answer the question. If I answer the question, I'm going to lose a participant. But I have to answer the question. So I said to a lady, I've handled this question of yours very thoroughly. A few studies from here, I didn't tell her it's study number 26, and she was in study 4. I just said a few studies from here, I've handled this one very, very thoroughly. I'm a bit busy at the moment. Do you mind holding on? And there, because I will not be able to do justice and answer you completely now. Do you mind holding on for that? And she said, yes. And she waited. So in other words, that person must have enough wisdom sometimes not to answer the question directly. Do you understand? You don't sometimes answer a question, but you've got to answer it. You've got to address it. Right, so that question handler will have access to Bible answers. I'll come to that just now, where they can actually type in that question. We've got a database. We started it 2 months ago. So all questions now go into the database, and if that question has been answered in the past, the computer will spit out the answer for you, and you can copy and paste that and send it to your participant. But that person is the one that does it. Right. Then a participant capturer. Now, Neville and I don't even have TV at home. I don't have time to sit and, I can't even watch a DVD. It's impossible. Even a sermon. I don't have that time in my life. The only time I have is behind the steering wheel. And that's when I listen to sermons and listen to Neville preaching to me and things like that, etc. But so time is really a problem. And I was busy with about 25 groups at that stage. And I was aware of two of my friends, very, very wealthy South African businessmen, whose wives were sitting at home with nothing to do. And I had the solution. I said, you are bored? And they said, yes, we are. And I said, do me a favor, when we place this advert, can I put your name and telephone number at the back of this advert, so that when people want to participate with Revelation of Hope, they will then SMS you instead of me, because I haven't got the time to type in this contact. I've only got one finger. My daughters have 30 fingers there. Have you seen your daughters, your kids on the cell phones? I've got one finger. In any case, so they became participant capturers. They then got the response. They took their 20 seconds or whatever to create the contact, and they would send me blocks of 20 or 30 of these at a time, and per contact, it would take me 3 or 4 clicks to open the contact, save it, check it on Facebook, close it. Boom. 4 seconds instead of 20 seconds. So I employed people like that without paying them any salary, etc., etc. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And they sat and received thousands of contacts, participants, that we then gave away to other, those ones I didn't use for myself. I actually was helping other churches getting on the go with that. Then you need a digital recorder. Now, I see, now in Africa, most of our churches are not digital. We are starting with that now. The reason for that is we've just had Wi-Fi, and now they are busy laying fiber optics, which is changing our life in South Africa. In Johannesburg, where I live, I have fiber optics, so it's very, very convenient there for churches to now start broadcasting the sermons, etc., that's happening in the church. But yet in America, I see that the churches that we've gone into are very highly organized. Upstairs, they're very highly organized, etc., etc. So what we are suggesting that all churches become digital. That's what Neville started off with tonight. All churches become digital. Have any of you preached? Have any of you led out in the Sabbath school discussion lesson? Yes. Have any of you led out in the Sabbath school pre-program? It takes time to prepare for those things. Now, what my point is when a person stands there that has spent 80 or 90 hours preparing a sermon over a period of 2-3 weeks, which is the case with me. If somebody stands there that spent 20, 30 hours preparing the Sabbath school lesson to be able to lead out in discussion, you don't read through the Sabbath school lesson to be able to render a good discussion. No. It's a very deep study. Now, all that we are saying is, we are busy evangelizing to people. Your participants are people that are interested in the Bible. That's why they said, yes, please, I want to be a participant. I want to understand the book of Revelation better. They've gone through the Sabbath. They've gone through being baptized by immersion, etc., etc., etc. So at a certain point, you will be able to actually invite your participant and say, listen, by now we know that you love Bible study. We have a Bible study. They will not understand the word Sabbath school lesson. So I use the terminology, we have a Bible study every single Sabbath morning where 22 million of us worldwide study the same lesson, and then we discuss that lesson, and that is recorded. And if you go onto our page and then you give them the page for the first time, which is your website for this congregation, and if you like that page, you will receive a notification that Bible study is now on the go. And by the way, we call it Sabbath school lesson. Then they understand what you're talking about. Okay. And so then you'll get many people that will then become participants in your congregation from a digital point of view. It doesn't matter where they live in the world. As long as they understand English, they are now becoming participants in your congregation as well on a Sabbath morning. Might not be the divine service yet. It might just be the Sabbath school lesson study at that point. So It's very important for us worldwide. It will be great if every single congregation, and we have 72,000 churches worldwide and 69,000, call it 70,000 home groups, call that 150,000 churches worldwide as a denomination. Can you imagine if every single one of them was digital? Wouldn't that be phenomenal? Absolutely phenomenal. So it's very important that all Sabbath School pre-programs, Sabbath School lesson discussion, the divine service is placed on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And Alvin will be clued up with what cameras and things are available. There's a very fantastic camera that we've quite a few we've taken back to Africa called Mevo. It's called Mevo. It's a small little thing that stands. It actually screws into this thing over here, into a music stand, and somebody sits there on a cell phone and organizes the different angles that it actually takes from and records everything. And instantly, it's placed onto YouTube. Instantly. As it's happening, it happens live. I don't know what your setup is here. Obviously, this works live as well, but there are fantastic products. Then a Sabbath School group leader, a Sabbath School discussion group leader would be fantastic. Neville started one 5 years ago in Namibia. It was very, very popular. And with the Sabbath School lesson discussion group, where Neville was very unique, is he did not discuss the Sabbath School lesson. He gave background material that had to do with the Sabbath School lesson that was not in the Sabbath School lesson. So it is beneficial for people. It's pointless discussing the Sabbath School lesson when everybody's going to read through the Sabbath School lesson for that week. So Neville gave extra material that is not available in the Sabbath School lesson, that he went and scratched out somewhere else, etc., and became very, very popular. Very, very popular. So extra material. Then you can form women's groups and men's groups. You can form youth groups, etc. So can you see that this church needs a digital evangelism team? It will have a team leader, a prayer group leader, a participant coordinator, social media marketing, your digital evangelists, then the technical support and question handler. Those are the necessities. The rest is not a necessity at this stage. Those are the necessities. Okay, so then you will see when you go onto cpe360.org, you go into organogram, you will see this organogram, and on the right-hand side there are job descriptions for these specific positions as I've just explained. And eventually we will have this placed in Spanish, in all the languages of the world will be available on the site. At this moment, we just have an Afrikaans language, which is the language in Southern Africa, and English, which is the language that I think most Americans understand. Right. Then if you can go to the next one, please, Alwyn, enrollment form. The enrollment form. Thank you. Right, the enrollment form, what we want you to do when you go home tonight, I would like you to go onto 360.org, and remember that I will give it to you in writing. Go into 360.org, cpe360.org, and there you will see there's the enrollment form. So there you put in your congregation, the date is there automatically, your name, your phone number, your email address, and then there's a list of preferences. So do you see yourself as a team leader? Do you see yourself as a digital recorder? Or do you see yourself as a social media marketing, just as 3 examples? We want you to identify 3 positions that you like to be or to hold, possibly hold in this team, in this congregation. What I will then do is when you send this at the bottom and you send that to me, a minute later, that's on my computer. So when I get back, maybe in 2 or 3 days' time, I can draw, you can submit that. I can draw this report and send that to your team leader so that he can then take this information and arrange this and see. Now, he knows each one of you personally, I suppose, and he will know if that position is suited to you or not, and that will help him to organize his thoughts before you get together next Sabbath after potluck to choose the positions for the team. Okay, so that's how that works. Does it make sense? Any questions? Any questions? Just raise your hand. No problem. So that's the enrollment form. That's to assist the team leader to then choose to draw up a list, etc., etc. Then the DE instructions, I'm going to explain that to you just now. If you can just go into the Revelation series over there, please. Now there you will see a link. You see this link at the bottom? That's 29 studies in English. That will be available on this link here, and you can download all 29 studies there, and then you will be able to send those out, etc., etc. So that's where the link is, and that's the question you asked me just now. Right, so those are the different positions. I just want to have a look. I want to show you something, and Neville, if you can just help me here, please, I will appreciate. If you can just hold this so that I can hold the microphone in front of me. Right, just let them see that, please. You're going to get this document, and on this document, it will explain to you how to store a participant with the iOS, which is Apple, or the Android system. So both platforms are explained step by step. Now, all of us know how to store a participant. That's very, very easy. All right, then we go to the next one, and that is how to start a broadcast list. How to start a broadcast list. Once again, for both platforms, iOS, which is Apple, or the Android system, is all there, Daniso. And then the next one is how to actually download WhatsApp Web, and there's the link for the WhatsApp Web. But just go into Professor Google. He knows everything. Just type in, I want to download WhatsApp Web, and it actually happens automatically. But it's all there as well. It's given to you between how to set it up onto your Android or your Apple setup. No problem whatsoever. Then when Neville and I were here in Phoenix, Arizona in December, we actually recorded on with AWR cameras, and there's a link here on how to do exactly what I'm saying here now. So you can actually go into that link, and you'll see on the video exactly what I'm discussing with you now, what Neville is discussing with you tonight is available on that video. Right, and then, yeah, that's about it. Thank you, Neville, I appreciate it. So that is what I'm going to actually give you at this point. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to Neville, who will talk about the high touch. And then when Neville is finished, I would like to be talking to you again, and then we'll close off this evening. Thank you very, very much. Any questions in the meantime while Neville is setting up his computer? Any questions? Yes?
How many Bible studies does Neville have going on?
Right. This is a very good question. The question that we've just been asked for those who are not here, how many Bible studies is Neville and the digital teams around the world sending out at this stage? Right, at this stage, and remember that we are just over a year old. This is the beginning of the tsunami forming. Literally. We have 534 groups. Now, if you take 534 groups, and you take, for instance, the participants in every group to its maximum of 256 per group. You can't have more than 256 participants on a group. It cuts off at that point. We don't know why it's 256, but it's 256. If we take that, it works out to about 136,000 participants. Now, the magnificent thing about cell phone evangelism, when people are really enthused in what they are receiving, some of them will send that on to nobody. Very few will send it on to nobody. We have some people that send it to 22 people. But the average is that 57% of the recipients of those Bible studies will send to 4 other of their friends. In other words, if you take the 136 and you take 57% of that and times that by 4, plus the 136,000, we're talking 450,000 people around the world at this stage are receiving these studies once a week. Isn't that amazing? This is the beginning of a tsunami of Bible studies that's forming at the moment. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened in this church as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely unbelievable. I would like to make a statement. You and I are privileged to be part of this generation that for the first time since Jesus has walked on this earth have the capability and the ability to finish this work, because digitally, this whole world is connected the last 12 months. We are the first generation that is able to actually finish this work. Now, I remember when I was a little kid, and my dad was a full-time evangelist. I used to sit in those massive theaters that my dad used to hire with 10, 20 pastors helping them with the evangelistic campaign that lasts 4 or 5 months at a time. And I would sit there, and he would say, the end of the world is coming, and I'm sitting there with my German blood and my logic way of thinking, and I'm thinking, I just cannot see how the world, Jesus is coming at all while I'm living. I just can't see it. But let me tell you, I've been thinking that for about 60 years. I'm 69 years of age. For 68 years, I've been thinking that. And the last year, my eyes have opened. Digitally, we are now connected worldwide, and this is the way that we can finish this work. Now, I would like to share something else with you. Neville received from the president of AWR and the president of our worldwide church about 5 weeks ago, is that right, in Korea? What is it, Tukena? An award. He received an award for the biggest contribution to the worldwide evangelism church, to the worldwide church in evangelism in the last 12 months. Isn't that amazing? So really, the Lord has led us to something remarkable. And we are inviting you today to be part of this team, which will absolutely change this church. Thank you.
Okay, that's easy enough. That's why we've got the technical support person. What about if we don't know how to use the computer? Then there is a technical support person that will assist and help you. But basically, you are going to use your cell phones initially to harvest numbers and get numbers and put numbers onto your phones. Once that is done, when we get to the sending, the broadcasting of the stuff, you can actually broadcast it off your cell phone. It's not that you can't do it. It just works better off the laptop. So we've got the system set up on laptop. I've actually got it on my laptop, but I'm not linked up to internet at the moment. So I don't know whether I will be able to show you that. But I've got the WhatsApp on my laptop, and basically we just open the WhatsApp on there. Like you said, your telephone must just be close by. And then once that is done, then you can actually work it. No, the hotspot won't work on there. That's fine. No, that's okay. So then it works fine. Your person, Alvin, here, that's working here, I'm sure he knows exactly what he's doing. He'll be able to assist and help you with that. So that's pretty easy enough. And it just makes it easier for attachments and stuff like that. It just, you work just faster. And because you've got a full keyboard, it works just easier. It's simple. But you can do it off your phone. You literally can. The first one I ever sent out, I worked solely off my phone. It's only afterwards. At the moment, I'm sending out to a tremendous amount of people, and I just cannot do that on my phone anymore. Let me tell you something that happened with me. I trained the people of Japan in cell phone evangelism, and I just saw, you know what, I don't think it's going to work in Japan. And I thought, and I was really breaking my head about this because I thought this is so necessary in Japan, and I've shown them in the training that it will work, but it's just as if the people just weren't getting to do it. And so in this last months, we had the problems in the floods in Fukuoka and Okinawa, and then we had the typhoons and we had the earthquakes and all that. Anyway, when the floods in Fukuoka and Okinawa came, I made a small iMovie advert on the floods and I said, don't you people in Japan want an answer why this is happening to you? We have answers. Of course we have the answers, Matthew 24. It's pretty simple. We have the answers. And I put this movie out there, this little iPhone movie advert. And in 3 days' time, I had 19,000 hits and 14,000 Japanese people said, yes, we want to hear. So I've been broadcasting to people in Japan, 14,000 people in Japan on a weekly basis. And you know what those people of Japan are coming back to me? They're saying, why has nobody ever told us this before? That's a little bit of a bad statement for us, isn't it? There's this whole nation sitting there, and they're saying, why has nobody ever told us this? You've got the answers, so why aren't you telling us? Anyway, so we've got 14,000 people in Japan, so we cannot do that on our cell phones anymore. We do it off our computers. It just works better. Anyway, let's look at this part. It's a really good part. So once you start with cell phone evangelism, basically your little church will become a mini evangelism center, if you like. And you've seen how that is set up with a team leader and the prayer group leader and so on. And let me make it clear. The secret of cell phone evangelism is in the prayers. Nothing else. There's nothing else that is the secret. It's the prayers. If we pray 5 o'clock in the morning, if we seriously pray, God does miracles. It's God that takes those messages out. It's the Holy Spirit that talks to the person that receives it. It's a one-on-one communication between the Holy Spirit and that person. It's got nothing to do with me anymore, nothing to do with Gideon anymore, nothing to do with whoever's recorded those messages. It's a one-on-one conversation between the Lord and the hearer. That's how it is. And in the end, it's the Holy Spirit that does the convincing. And we are just little instruments, and we're happy to be. So, of course, we need to direct some stuff. So let's look at why we're talking about centers for digital evangelism, why we're talking on the website about digital evangelism. Let's look at that a little bit. This is the problem. Millions of people engage with Adventist World Radio and the Adventist Church every week. But you know what? We take days to reply, and we largely ignore these interactions. That's basically what is happening. People are actually engaging on the Adventist Church's website, on Adventist World Radio website, all over, on all the websites, and also via us. And basically, people are not responding. And you know what happens when we ignore them and we don't respond to them? They go away. Because unfortunately today, like we said, it's a fast-moving environment, it's a quick environment, and I want an answer, and I want an answer now. And if I don't get an answer now, I go to someone else who will give me an answer. And you know, one of the strongest indictments in life that I find is a young man by the name of Cat Stevens. Have you heard of Cat Stevens? Cat Stevens wrote a nice song. Do you know that song? It's actually in our hymnal. Morning has broken. Do you know that song? And do you know that Cat Stevens became a Buddhist? Well, when Cat Stevens wrote the song Morning is Broken, that should have had every single Christian sitting up straight saying, here is a man shouting out that he's in need of somebody to lead him to Christ. He's searching. He was looking. And you know what? Not a single Christian in this world spoke to Cat Stevens, and he went to become a Buddhist. Isn't that a nasty indictment against Christianity? Well, it certainly is. Anyway, that's more or less what happens when we ignore these things. Because when people are shouting out to us and they're saying, hey, I want some assistance, I want some help, I want knowledge, I want whatever, and we ignore them, well, they're going to go elsewhere. And that elsewhere might just not be the place where we should let them go. So what was the objective? The objective was to lead every digital relationship to baptism and church planting. Every digital relationship, so our cell phones, when we are doing cell phone evangelism, every one of those people that we load up into a broadcasting list that we send out the messages to becomes a digital relationship. I need you to understand that, because this lady was asking about fellowship. And a fellowship is relationship, isn't that? Yes, exactly. So every one of them becomes a relationship. And we tend to do a couple of things around this. One of the things that we do, and I'll explain that now, but I also want to just tell you something about the church planting idea. We do that by simply getting those people to start sending us prayer requests. So one of the things we do, and you'll find that in the sermons that we send out, those sermons will give the sermon, it'll give the sermon topic, but at the end of the sermon topic, when we get to the end of the sermon, we will say, listen, have you got something that we need to pray for you about? And they will send that in. And then we will pray for them. We'll take a look at that now. And we'll follow that through. But we also say that it must lead to baptism and church planting. Now, church planting, I just want to clarify this. In our first series that we ever did, there was a lady and her husband that received the messages, the sermons. And then they listened to the sermons, and they lived in a communal area. Communal area means that you don't own the land, you can never own the land. The land belongs to the people of the area. It's communal ground. And the way it works is you go to the chief and you ask the chief, you need a piece of land, and the chief will say, okay, what do you want to do? And you will say, this is this and this and this. That's what I have in mind, and so on. And they will talk about it a little bit, the elders of the community. And then the community will say, okay, yes, we'll give you a piece of ground over there. But it's not it's still their ground, but you have the use of that ground. And they will say, fine, that's your piece of ground. But when you get that piece of ground in a community like that, in communal ground, it also means that your responsibility towards the community is now a given. You're not allowed to neglect your responsibility towards the community. So you've got to help and assist and whatever within that community. So this lady and her husband received the messages, and then when the Sabbath came along, they decided that they're going to do the Sabbath. So they are in a community. So they get the community together, and they say to the community, listen, we've had Bible studies. This is the story. The Sabbath was produced. We know that it's right. From now on, we are going to be keeping the Sabbath. The community talked about it for a while, and then they said, if you are going to keep the Sabbath, as a community, we are going to keep the Sabbath. They had not received a single Bible study. But because these two did, and because they said to the community, this is in the Bible, this is what we're going to do, that whole community decided they're going to do the Sabbath. From now on, that's how they're going to do it. So, basically, this lady planted a church before she was even baptized. And they started church by doing church, playing the cell phone messages to the community. That was how their church started. So they came together and listened to the cell phone messages. That was their church. That's what they had. They continued, and the interesting thing is that they grew as they went along, and they are now almost 200 people strong. And they've actually built a church, and I haven't got the photos up here, but I've got the photos on my cell phone if you want to see them. They are actually building a church, and the church's roof is going up in this week. So, and only the lady and her husband was baptized so far. The conference president and myself are going down there in January, baptizing all the rest of the members, inaugurating the church, doing the blessing of the children, stuff like that. We're doing all of that. So, and she started a whole church. So she planted a church just through cell phone evangelism, just because the relationship was built. So I think that's one of the important things that we need to understand. So the objective was to establish an AWR 360 center. That's one of the things we talked about when we talked about cell phone evangelism, a lot of us. So we said we want to establish a center for digital evangelism. And the first one that we wanted to establish was in the Philippines. In fact, that is being built right now as we speak. It's already started. The building is not being built, but we already have digital evangelists there. How many have we got, Tim? They're going up next month. But we've already got a director that's running the place. 4 digital evangelists have already been chosen. They've been appointed. They're going over there, and they're going to specifically work towards India, right? Yeah, good. And these digital evangelisms will serve multiple languages to respond immediately to every digital interaction within the Adventist Church, so as to build personal, long-term relationships that would lead to baptism. The second one is going up in Pretoria. I am myself very much involved in that one. And a third one is going up with Brother Tim in India. This is a smaller one in India. And a fourth one we are just starting, and that's with Pastor Mark Finley's church, just around the corner. So, what happens with this? And this is basically what will happen in every cell phone, digital cell phone ministry in any church. This is basically what will happen. Engagement. At one point in time, there's engagement. Whether they ask a question, whether you are inviting them to join a cell phone group, whether they are reacting to a 5-day stop smoking clinic or a health, whatever, it doesn't matter. But there's some kind of an engagement. Our idea is that we want to connect within minutes of every interaction. We don't want to wait days or months or weeks. The idea is that within 15 minutes we will respond. That's the idea. Within 15 minutes we will respond. And our interaction is through prayer. I've already mentioned that. One of the things that we say is, can we pray for you? Have you got something on your mind? Is there something bothering you? Can we intercede for you? Can we assist you with prayers? And that's a powerful thing. Now, what most people will do is they say, yes, I will pray for you. And then they don't. They forget it. We don't. When we say we're going to pray for you, we mean that. We are going to pray for you. That's why we've got that group 5 o'clock in the mornings. And we pray for you, for every single one of those. And then 2 days, 3 days, we actually give that person a call. And we say, you've sent us a prayer request. You said we should pray for your mother. How is it going with your mother? We've been praying for her. The reaction is remarkable. They say, wow, you are really praying? This is a novel idea. You're actually really praying. And we encourage them to giving us feedback. And we give that feedback and we say, you know what, we've had prayer requests for somebody that's been studying, and you know what, they've just gone and done their exams. They've been passing the exams. It was very successful. We're just here to congratulate them. Well done. Thank you very much for letting us know. Your mom is healthy. She's out of the hospital. She's healed. And you can understand what that does. It builds up that whole community on the cell phone that you've got. Because they're saying, you know what? These people are receiving prayer requests. They're really praying for those prayer requests. And listen, they are being answered. That's amazing, isn't it? Simple thing. Simple thing. Interaction, fellowship, isn't that? Yes, sister, that's exactly what it is. So we do it with prayer. We then go further. We say to them the next time around, we say, we've been praying for you or some of your requests. But by the way, don't you have a prayer request for your town, for your city? Is there something going wrong in your town? Maybe drugs or something like that? Can't we pray for your city? Yeah, you can pray for our city. and then they tell us which city they're from. And now we've got their name and their telephone number because they gave it to us. And because we now are praying for their city, now we know where they live. And then we tell them, by the way, if you send us your email address, we'll send you some printed matter. And now we've got an email address. And so you see how easy it is to get into building this relationship, and how easy and effective it is to really start finding out exactly where this person is. And now you can start connecting with somebody. Maybe it's somebody far away in Jamaica, but you know somebody in Jamaica. You get hold of the president or the pastor out there, and you say, by the way, we've got this person. This person is doing very well. It's got 16 lessons already. We need you to go and make contact with this person. See what I'm getting at? All right. We also connect them with Bible studies. One of the things that we're doing, we're just starting to incorporate that now. But because we're working with the Revelation of Hope Bible Study series of Pastor Mark Finley, he's already got a set of full Bible studies on his Bible University. So at the end, once we've sent out the study, we then follow up by sending them the physical Bible study, which gives them everything that we've told them in print. But at the end, it's got that little questionnaire that they can fill in that allows them to respond. You see what we're getting at? We're again building that relationship. We are now getting them to respond. They become responsive. And we can physically see, have they understood the lesson? Have they not understood the lesson? And we can perhaps spend some more time on issues that they don't know. And in the end, we take them to the local church, the closest church to where they are, and they can become a fully fledged member of that church where they are going to be baptized, where they are going to be incorporated, where they should be nurtured further. So what's the integration like? The integration works through everything, through the communication department of the General Conference, the total member involvement movement, the Voice of Prophecy and the Correspondence Bible Schools, the Sabbath School and personal ministries, you've heard that, the youth ministries, the Advent Mission. In fact, that one there is because of the first CDE in the Philippines, and of course the Adventist University in Brazil, because they've got an architectural unit and they help and design the buildings for us. So that's how we roll out this program. Everybody's getting involved. That's the point. Not just inside the church, like Gideon has said. Inside the church, we're getting the whole church involved. We want buy-in from the whole church. But in fact, we are buying in from all of the departments of the worldwide church. So, that example I'm not going to play right now. But we've got some software that I just wanted to tell you about. And that software that we've designed is for that answers within 15 minutes. And I'm sure that my brother Alvin there will like that. But Pegasystems is the software that we're going to use, because that software will allow us to send out, once a request comes in, a prayer request comes in, it'll send it out to a digital evangelist straight away and alert that digital evangelist that he's got to take action. And if there's no action within 10 minutes, the program then will select a second digital evangelist and send it to them, so that we can hit that response time of 15 minutes within every request coming in, whether that request comes in from website, from Facebook, from doesn't matter where. We want to make sure that we are going to answer people as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, because that's the only way we're going to retain them. That's the only way where they're going to know that we are serious enough to listen to what they've got to say. Okay? So that's part of the high touch thing. There's a lot of other things that we can do, but I think you get the idea that the high touch thing is building the relationship. And the centers of digital evangelism are there to assist the churches, to assist the cell phone operations going on in the churches, so that they can build those relationships and pick up the relationships and make it stronger, and eventually get the person from where they are into the church and get baptized. Gideon, you said you wanted to say something else.
Can you see why high touch is so important? Remember that you never baptize strangers. You baptize people that you've spent time with. Think of the time when you fell in love with each other. There isn't a husband and wife team, you know. Are you husband and wife? Excellent. Excellent. Okay. How did you fall in love with her? You had to spend time with her. Am I correct? You had to take her out for lunch. You had to take her out for dinner. You had to sit and chat with her in the motor car, under the tree, go for walks together. You've got to spend time with each other. And eventually, trust started building between the two of you. And then the relationship went deeper. Now, that's exactly what happens digitally. So it's very important that you remember those aspects. So, yes, question?
I want to interrupt your thought. Before we close, can you talk for a moment about WhatsApp and why it's important to only use the broadcast mode?
Yes, very, very good question. The question was, why do we only suggest to use the broadcast group and not the open groups? I will explain that just now. Right, basically with high touch, you ask for prayer requests, as Neville said. So when you get the prayer request, you make a list of it, and every morning at 5 o'clock, you actually literally mention that person's name and pray for them. Secondly, as an example, I just want to give you is, I got a prayer request the other day, please pray for my son. Now, she didn't give me any detail, which is wonderful, because it now means I have to type an SMS to her and start communicating with her. What is your son's name? How old is he? What is the situation that I need to pray for? And she SMS'd me back and said, my son's name is Arnold, and he's busy preparing for his high school end of the high school, we call them matric, I don't know what you call them in this country, the end of high school exams, before you go to university. What do you call that in this country? Final exams. Okay, final high school exams. Then I could SMS her back and said, okay, I've made a note of Arnold, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in our country, they write the final exams October, November of the year. I said to her, please phone me or SMS me the end of September and let me know that this happened in July or the beginning of August, and tell me how's it going with Arnold's preparation. He was a very nervous guy, nervous about the studies, etc. He's an A-grade student, and he was nervous he wasn't going to get 6 or 7 distinctions. He wanted 8 distinctions, something like that. That's just an example of high touch. The next example is if somebody reacts and asks a question because of a study. Then what I do is I don't answer the questions myself because I don't have the time. I will then answer that question and say, listen, I'm going to send this to my colleague, Dr. Roy. I'm a bit busy at the moment, and this was a very good question that you answered, that you asked. Thank you very much for the good question. And I would send that to her. Then I would send to Dr. Roy, my colleague, or to Neville, who would answer it on my behalf, the question from the person, my reaction to that person, and then I go into my contacts and I send the contact details to Dr. Roy. So he's got that parcel of 3. He's got the question, my response, and he's got the contact person details, telephone number. He will then respond within an hour or 2 and send that person the answer, send me a copy. Now I read the copy and I make a note in my diary. I give it 2 days or so, depending on what happened. Give it 2 days or so, then I will respond. How did you like Dr. Roy's answer to your question? That allows me to talk to her. Can you see I'm busy building relationships? Very, very important. You never baptize people that you don't build a relationship with. That's very, very important. Right, then the question that we received just now, why do we not have an open WhatsApp group, is first of all, somebody can hijack the group. When you are part of that group, you can see all the other participants' names and telephone numbers. And you can actually hijack the group and use it for your own purposes. Do you understand? It's very, very important that you use a closed group. Now, both groups work on a maximum membership or participants of 256 people. The difference is if I send out a message to the open WhatsApp group like we would do on the prayer group for the church, then everybody would see that. Everybody sees your prayer reaction. Everybody on the group sees it. The WhatsApp broadcast group is a closed group. Once again, if I send the Bible study out, everybody receives it, but you receive it as if it's individually. And if you ask me a question and you respond, only I see that. Nobody else sees it. Okay, so only for Bible studies, you only use the closed group, which is called a broadcast list. Okay, and in our instructions that we're going to give you just now, you're each going to get one of these. It is very, very clearly stated there how to form the group broadcast list, but your computer group team member will help you with that as well on your laptop or on your desktop computer. Do you still want to say something? Because I want to close, and tell me when you're finished. And then you're going
to what we've been speaking about, that's basically on your cell phone. This is Apple, obviously, but an Android has got more or less the same thing. On an Apple, you just see the broadcast lists over there and the new group. Well, let's go back. Let's go back. When you download WhatsApp, it'll be an icon like that on your screen. It's the same icon whether it's on an Android or an Apple. So that's the app that you want to download. It's still the best. Of course, you can use Messenger. You can use Messenger if you're using message systems in America. It's not that you can't use it, but it's the best because the broadcast list works on a person-to-person encrypted basis. It means your protection of your privacy is good. That's very important. That's valuable. So that still allows the best. There are others. There are Viber, there are Telegram, there are QQ, there are WeChat, there are lots of other things. But WhatsApp is the biggest, and it's still the best at this point in time. It doesn't necessarily mean it will remain so, but at this point in time, it definitely is. So, okay, once you have opened up your screen, it looks something like that. You select the WhatsApp, and once you've selected WhatsApp, this sort of screen will come up. And on the top of the screen, you will have this broadcast lists and new group. On an Android, it will not look like that, but on an Android, you will find where that little thing is, there's 3 little dots underneath each other. And if you click on those 3 dots on an Android phone, you will get the broadcast list. So, but that, like Gideon says, it's all in the instructions anyway. That's the closed one, and that's an open one. If you put people on that group, the moment you put them on the group, that group will open on that person's cell phone, and he will know that I'm part of a group. But it is open, and you can harvest the numbers, you can harvest the names, and you can do, and if one person responds, everybody else sees. Everybody sees all the conversation all the time. With broadcast list, that is not the case. With broadcast list, it's a person-to-person encrypted service. What does that mean? On that one, if you want to put someone's name on the open group, you can just give me the name, I can put the name on, and they're on the group. They will receive the message, whether they like it or not. With a broadcast list, no. With a broadcast list, your number must be on my phone, and my number must be on your phone, and only then can communication take place, because it's person-to-person encrypted. If he gives me that brother's number, and that brother doesn't know anything, so that brother doesn't put my number on his phone, but I now put the number on my phone, and I'm under the impression that, no, he will not get the message. It will never get to him, because my number's not on his phone. It has to be there for the encryption to work, because my message will only go to his phone if my phone number is there, so that the encryption code, because the encryption code is originated from the start of the message. Okay? So that's where the privacy comes in. It's a very, very interesting situation. All right. So you've got the broadcast list and the new group. If you now go to the broadcast lists, you will find something like that, for instance. And if you go into that, that's how a broadcast list will look on the inside. And I can see that. So I can physically see who's part of that broadcast list, but nobody else can. In fact, they don't get even the name of the broadcast list. For you, it will just be as if I'm sending my message to you. That's all. You will see a message from Neville Nevilling. That's all. You will not see a message from Snel Vierfeite. You will not see that. Okay? So that's one of the things that is very interesting around this. So you can do 256 persons per list, and you can have multiple lists. Okay? It's unlimited. The number of lists are unlimited. But you can have 256 persons per list. All right. So that gives you an idea on how that works. Excuse me? How do you back up your lists on the cloud? Yeah. All right. How do I invite a friend? Yeah. You going to show that now? All right. All right, he can show that video clip, and then you can take a look at that. All right? So we'll answer that question. But it's very easy. There's nothing difficult. You download the program works free of charge in a Wi-Fi situation, any Wi-Fi situation, or like you've said, with the latest trend in the USA, you've got this unlimited amount of data, and with that, you can easily even work off your subscription situation.
So as a church here, would they then need to gather and pick out who's going to be the leader and? I'm coming to that now. Okay, all right.
Yeah, they would certainly have to do that. Yeah, to get the church started.
And the website, the AWR/training website, if they want the materials and watch the tutorial videos.
That's all in here, but it's also on that CPE 360 where they can go on to the Revelation series. At the moment, the Revelation in English and Afrikaans is on there, but all the other languages will shortly be loaded onto that. And all the other series that we've got available will also be loaded onto there. Yeah. We don't encourage people to record for themselves, the churches. You can if you want to. It's not impossible. We can give you the text as well, and you can record for yourself as well. We don't encourage that for the simple reason that it's not quite preaching. It is conversation. And there's quite a bit of a difference. And because of the sound bites and the techniques used, there are certain techniques that we do use that we need to build in this to maintain the relationship and to maintain that. So we've used people that are already people that have gone through this and that's spent time on that. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. We are using, especially now in India, and I've used it in Japan. I've used 2 ladies in Japan, Hiroko Kotohira and her friend. They have not had any training. We've used them because I cannot speak Japanese. It's pretty simple. Neither can Gideon. The last time he tried, it was a disaster. So, I just said, don't worry, just leave it. It's okay. I'll get somebody else. So these ladies are doing a splendid job. So we do use other people. It's not like we don't use them, but they will make mistakes, especially in their first recording. Gideon was not an announcer. I was an announcer. I had 17 years of announcing experience. He didn't. But when he did his first series, I don't have any problem to tell you his first series was a disaster. And he will tell you that himself as well. And that's no reflection on him as a person. It just is. And he's somebody that knows theology. So he's had years of preaching experience, but his first series on cell phone was a disaster. It's pretty simple. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that he didn't know his material. He was well prepared. He was all the rest of it. And now he will tell you, he himself will tell you, that his approach has changed dramatically. Because you get to know that after a while. And you know that, you're not talking to a church full of people. You're talking now always only to one person. So even if I am broadcasting to the 9,000 people of Life in Abundance, I'm not broadcasting to 9,000 people. I'm only broadcasting to one. If you want to be a successful salesperson with what you're doing, you only talk to one. You don't worry about all that other numbers that you've keyed in. Yes, you have to, because obviously that's how you do your business. But in your mind, you are always speaking to one person, only one. And that's how it is, because you've got to get personal. Okay? Right.
Right. First of all, I would like Alvin to put on that advert, Alvin. That's a short 2-minute advert clip that you get on your cell phone. And we can give your digital person that material, and he would add onto that your telephone number and your name at the end. So you'll see somebody else's telephone number and name now. That doesn't matter. It's just an example. I think this is the It Is Written one that I started. So don't get confused. We're just using this as an example to show you how it works. Alvin, can you play that advert, please?
Good day, friend. You are invited to a new series of Bible studies. I will be broadcasting this series starting Monday evening, the 21st of May. This is a very exciting series. Some examples of the subjects to be covered are, can God be trusted? Another study will be, can you recognize the end time signs? Another one, is there hope for this planet in crisis? And extremely interesting studies are the Messiah and the judgment, all the biblical facts. And also the second coming of Jesus, will it be soon? My friend, these studies answer many questions such as peace on earth, is this possible? Quality time, how and where? The day that disappeared, when did this happen? The mystery of death, what happens when someone dies? This is just a foretaste of many more interesting subjects, and I'm looking forward to share these with you. I encourage you to send me your name so that I can include you in the series. And then please chat to friends and ask them if you can send their names and contact details to me as well. These will be broadcast once per week via WhatsApp, and you will receive them privately in your phone. You will not be part of a group. The cell phone, it is so convenient. You listen with your Bible in your own time. Please join me. Send your contact details to me right now to the number displayed. Have a great day, my friend.
So anything under 2 minutes is very, very effective. Now, the idea is that your digital evangelist's name and telephone number will be at the end. It will be the revelation of hope, not the It Is Written, right? The people will respond direct to that number. That really works. Now, the participant coordinator will receive this and make sure that every church member gets this on their cell phones. Then the church members actually send this out to their contacts on their cell phones, and that answers your question. Is that correct? Okay, so remember that one of the ways is to place the advert on Facebook, where you change the settings to public. When you finish placing that advert, you go back to friends, right, on your settings. The other way is the pay-by-clicks system. I explained it with the adverts on the right-hand side on your Facebook page. The third way is this way, and the fourth way is where people are coerced by the participant coordinator to bring willing participants' names to church on Sabbath in an envelope. In other words, they speak to their neighbors, they speak to their friends that they work with, etc. So those are the 4 methods, how you actually harvest people that become willing participants in the Revelation of Hope series. Okay, any other questions? Yes, lady. The revelation of hope is for anybody on this globe, not just for Christians.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, if you ask non-Christian to study Revelation, I mean, it is written is good because it covers a lot of.
We've got both series, but we're starting with the revelation of hope. Is that your question?
Are you talking about reaching out to like Hindus and Muslims who maybe aren't familiar with Christian terminology?
Oh, I understand. Yes. I've not done something like that yet at this stage. What is available in that direction, Neville?
There is a series, a bridging series, that I'm just busy with. I've actually just done the first lecture. The second lecture is going out this week for Muslims specifically. So this is Muslim specific, where we're bridging from the Quran to the Bible. Now, the series is a very interesting series because not many people know this, but the Islam religion is not a religion where the Quran is the only holy book. The Quran is only one of the holy books. There are 4 holy books in Islam. The Torah, the Zabur, I think it is, that's the Psalms, the Injil, which is the Gospels, and the Quran. And Islam says that they are supposed to read all 4 of the books. So firstly, we need to tell them to go back to the Quran and that they have to understand that they need to read the other books as well, the other holy books. The reason why they don't want to read the other holy books is because they say that the other holy books have been contaminated. The reason why they say the other holy books have been contaminated is because they say, well, you know, if you Christians say that you are reading the Torah, which is the law and the prophets, if you are reading the Zabur, which is the Psalms and the wisdom literature, and if you are reading the Injil, which is the Gospels, and you are eating pork, and you are living the way that you are living in sin and in sodomy and in homosexualism, etc., 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 they say, obviously the books must be contaminated because the books didn't say so. So Christians sometimes are the biggest downfall to themselves because they don't live according to the principles laid out in the Bible. So we need to then tell them that no, the books are not contaminated, but people are contaminated. Because people do the strangest things. That does not mean the books are contaminated. So we need to get them to understand that and get them back to the Bible. So I'm busy with this one that is a bridging course where we lead Muslims specifically to understand that it is okay for them to read the Bible, and then we bring them back to the Bible, and once we've got them back to the Bible, then we can start dealing with the normal biblical topics such as Revelation of Hope or Daniel or so on. So you're 100% right. The Vedas does something very similar, but in the Hindu religion, we strangely enough don't have to do a bridging seminar. But the Vedas has got something very similar. For instance, the Vedas also has a trinity, which is Shiva and Brahman and Krishna. Yes. And that's the trinity in Hinduism. And they also, for instance, have the rider on the white horse with a sword in his hand, a double-edged sword in his hand, coming again. So they've got this coming again thing, the second coming again thing. They've got the Trinity thing, and so on. So sometimes you just have to point them to that. But yes, I hear what you are saying, and we have to be sensitive to that. Those are specialized bridging courses that we have. We are busy looking at those. We will get new and new material all the time. At the moment, I am busy with the Muslim one. Once that is finished, it will be 10 lectures. Then we will have that bridging one available specifically to deal with Muslim people. And it's very sensitive. We try using their own writings. We show them out of their own writings that their own prophet said. In fact, their own prophet says that when they judge, they are supposed to judge by the light of the Torah and not by the light of the Quran, for instance. So those things we bring out and we lift out and we say, this is how it is. And so by your own standards, you are supposed to be reading the Bible. And by your own standards, you are supposed to be using the Bible as the standard. So yeah, but it's a valid question. We must.
Okay, I would just like, Alvin, if you can go into bibleanswers.co.za, please. I just want to show that, and then we're almost finished. Bible Answers. That's it. Great. Now, can you see that there's in the middle here, on the right-hand side, on the third in the middle, there is Ask Questions. So in other words, your question handler, which is part of the team, would go into there, correct, and then type his question in, and that the database, this is a database of all questions that are being asked. The answer will then will then appear. If the answer has never, if that question has never been handled before, then that question will be sent to one of us. We will answer the question, and you will receive that within an hour or two. That database is now available. So none of you will have access to that database. Only the question handler will have access to this database. We've got to control the setup. So in other words, that means that there's one standard of answers which is given out, which is absolutely 100% biblically based. There'll be nobody guessing an answer. There will be none of that whatsoever. These will be thorough, good, thought-out answers. Anything else before we close? Right. There was a very wealthy American. He was passionate about art. And he built this gallery, a massive gallery the size of this church, literally. And he would spend $100,000 US, $500,000 US, $1 million, very, very easily on a work of art. He really had a lot of money. And his son, Simon, also had a passion for art. And but his son also had another passion. He would drive down the road and walk down the road and meet a hobo, and he would chat to this hobo and make friends with the hobo and give him a sandwich that he made that morning, or a pair of shoes he's not wearing anymore, or a shirt or something like that. He just had a passion of making friends with hobos. And one day, Simon mentioned to this one specific hobo that he'd met quite a few times that his father has this magnificent collection of art. And this hobo said, "Oh, I'd love to see this collection one day because I used to be an amateur artist, a pretty good artist, but I never made it." And Simon thought, well, let me test this guy. And next time I'll see him, I'll buy a couple of pastels and art paper and give it to him and see what he can do. Maybe I will actually help him to start making money again, etc., etc. And he did exactly that. And a week later, when he popped around to the hobo, I think the hobo's name was Bruce or something like that. I can't remember. Let's call him Bruce. He said, "Hello, Bruce. Here's some pastels and art paper. Paint something, and I'll come and collect it from you next time I see you." He said, No. You sit down, Simon. I would like to draw you." And Simon thought, well, let's see how this goes. And he posed, sat there for a couple of minutes, maybe 30 or so minutes, and while Bruce was sketching him. And when he eventually got the sketch, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. And when he went back home, he showed this to his wealthy father, and his father was very impressed. He loved this sketch of his son. And he had it framed and he had it put up in the gallery. And it wasn't a month or so later, and Simon came around and he actually said to Bruce, "My father passed away." And he sympathized with him, etc., etc. And it wasn't a week or two, and the son had also died. He heard that the son had died. So he went to the extent of actually walking to this very wealthy area where this father and son stayed, this very, very wealthy area with this massive estate, with a gallery built inside and the massive security walls and the gates and the security guards in the front. And he then spoke to the security guards and he verified that the son, Simon, had passed away. And as he walked away, he saw this banner that there's going to be this art auction. And he thought, wow, Simon has been talking about this magnificent collection and he's been mentioning all these names. He would actually like to be there on that day to actually just see what this art is like. So he thought, well, let me memorize the date. And he actually phoned a friend and he said, listen, do you mind if I come the day beforehand? I've got a passion to see this art. I would like to have a bath in your home. Can you lend me some clothes, etc., so I can just be dressed neatly, etc.? I would like to actually attend this auction. Obviously not to buy. I'm just going to look, but nobody will know that I'm actually a hobo. I can't afford any of these things, but I would just like to enjoy and just take in this collection before it's being auctioned and disappears. And he did exactly that. And as he walked into the auction that day, as he looked up, he saw the portrait that he painted of Simon right in front of him in the middle of the gallery. He thought, wow, that's amazing. And everybody was looking at all the galleries, and the guys were commenting, who's this? Because that's an unknown character. But the others are all very well-known persons, etc., worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, some of them, etc., etc. Eventually, the guys, the audience was getting impatient. They wanted the auction to start. And eventually, the auctioneer hammered on the table and he said, let the auction start. And everybody was very excited. They wanted to buy this art now, but they said there's one proviso. We need to auction the son first. And everybody oohed and awed, but who's this? No, that's not a very well-known artist, etc. And they started at a very low price, $1,000 for this unknown work of art, this portrait. And this art came down and down and down in price, and nobody was even lifting their hands. And eventually, when it came to $10, the hobo thought, well, listen, I've got $5 in my pocket, and I hope this goes down to $5, and I'll buy my own one back, and nobody knows that it'll be me buying my own one back. At least the frame will be worth more than $5. And that's what happened. It came down to $5. He put up his hand, and he won the art. Everybody clapped hands for this guy. He won the work of art, and everybody's now excited. We can now start with this auction. And the auctioneer said, there's one proviso. The one who won the son has won the whole collection. You and I possess the Son, Jesus Christ. We have the whole collection. And it's your opportunity to say tonight that you would like to share what you've won with your friends and with people that you don't even know. And if you would like to be part of this digital team for this congregation, I would like you to stand now, please, at this moment. Thank you. Wonderful. Right. I would like us to form a circle, because I would like to do a dedication prayer for you now. I'd like to dedicate this team for digital evangelism. Let's just form a circle here and hold hands and do a prayer of dedication. Please, let's form a circle here, please. Let's go. Come closer. Thank you very much. Neville, can you hold this for me, please? We'd let you up because we've got visitors on digital. I need to pray into that. Right. Heavenly Father, thank you very much for this congregation, for each person here that is now dedicating their lives, their talents, their time to this digital evangelistic team of this congregation. Thank you for each person that's willing to do that. Thank you that each one here can actually share that which they have received, that they can share the Son that they've received, that they can thereby share life and the everlasting life with other people and friends that I don't even know at this point. Lord, we ask you to bless this congregation. We ask you to bless all the members of this church as well, as they will then supply willing participants' names and telephone numbers to this team, who will then put them on a broadcasting list, and eventually, hopefully, they will become Adventists soon in time. So, Lord, we ask your blessing on each person here that's forming this team. We ask you to bless this church. This is our humble prayer in your name. Amen. I would like us to please just stand here. I would like to take a photograph that we're going to send to AWR. That's going to be the digital evangelistic team for this church. Please come and stand here. I will appreciate that. Tim, will you take a shot of us, please? Yeah. We got some steps here. Let's use this place here. We got some steps here. Yeah, so you can stand on top. The shorter ones maybe on top.